But look, let's go to the US. Donald Trump has slugged our $2 billion pharmaceutical sector with a 100% tariff. That means any sort of our product sold in America from October 1 will have to cop the tax. David, you know, he was out there having a selfie this week, Albo, with Donald Trump. Didn't quite work. Snubbed twice on the world stage. Apparently they've got a meeting next month. What have we got to offer America, do you think?
We have failed our relationship with the United States, and this is proof. I mean, there is no way that George W. Bush and John Howard would have seen this sort of a decline in the relationship. And when you think about the tradition of 125 years, 150 years of engagement between Washington and Australia, it's very, very sad. I think that, you know, Kevin Rudd has failed us as an ambassador. The commentary that was made, and this is a very good lesson for young politicians, be careful whose arse you kick on the way up, because it'll be the one you kiss on the way down.
That's a good one.
And what happened with Kevin Rudd and with Anthony Albanese, the stuff they said about Donald Trump when he was down is now resonating around echoing around the walls of the Oval Office, and they're giggling at us. They are giggling at us. So if I was the Prime Minister, I'd be going to a Conservative. I'd be saying, listen, can you go to Washington? Can you take over our relationship? Mea culpa. We were disrespectful to the Republican Party, and now we've realised, because this is going to cost lots of jobs in Australia.
Absolutely,
this is going to cost Labor jobs.
Yes, it is.
This is going to cost the working class jobs, and it is exactly the opposite that what I would have thought that a traditional Labor government would have done, particularly post Gough Whitlam.
Well, they've trashed the relationship. Kevin Rudd does remain the elephant in the room. They're not going to put the pharmaceutical benefits scheme up as any sort of bargaining chip. We're not going to lift our defence spending. So we're just going to keep getting slugged with tariffs.
Well, and it doesn't seem to concern Albanese in the slightest. He seems to be pretty relaxed about it. I think it's going to be up to industries like the Australian pharmaceutical industry now to really actually start putting the boot back into Albo, because it's all these industries that are copying these tariffs that actually have to ask the question, is Albanese actually looking out for the interests of Australian industries?
Yeah.
You know, Kevin Rudd, is he the right ambassador? Of course he isn't. This is by the way, this has been brewing for about 6-7 months. We know this pharmaceutical tariff has been on the table for at least since March. It's been an issue. And $2 billion is no small amount for that we make from exporting 90%, I think, to the American market. So these companies are going to have to probably manufacture some of their product in the US to keep this sort of product being sold in America. They're not going to let go of that, let go of the industries that they have there, the export market.
No.
But David's right, it'll cost jobs in Australia because people will lose their job here as the manufacturing goes to the US.
Which is the saddest part out of all of this. Now, look, beware homeowners. More than 30 experts and economists have agreed that the RBA will be holding the cash rate at 3.6%. This comes after inflation, of course, jumped in September from 2.8 to 3%. Look, you know, not great news if you're a mortgage holder, but I just think it's a broader issue, David, that we are still in the middle of a cost of living crisis under this government.
We certainly are, but the problem for the government is that anybody over the age of 50 remembers Paul Keating's 16% interest rate. So there's a lot of pain to come if they don't get this right. And ironically, the inflation figures this week were driven by the cost of renewable energy, but I was told that we were going to get cheaper electricity.
Hang on.
So I don't know how that happens. And I mean, it breaks my heart to think that there are Sydney working families that can't afford their mortgage. It really does. It goes against the grain of anybody like me to come from a Western Sydney working class family. We lived for the day we made the last mortgage payment. It's just not going to happen. And I don't blame the government necessarily. I do blame to a lesser extent the wages hikes that the unions forced upon the Labor Party when they in return for them backing them into government.
But the government agreed to them, Dave.
Well, that's exactly right. I know, but they agreed to them with one hand behind their back. So, I mean, I think it is also indicative of the attitude that the Labor Party has about microeconomic reform. It's just non-existent.
Well, I feel like they've killed off the great Australian dream.
Of course,
and, you know,
about
everything. They can't get their housing policy in order. Immigration, net zero has been a disaster. And now we're left in this situation.
And they're big spending, 75 billion announced for the renewable industry. And of course, the RBA is watching this, this carefully. Jim Chalmers today has essentially patted himself on the back that, look, inflation's not as bad.
He's always patting himself on the back.
It's extraordinary that he can't read the room, because the RBA is erring on the side of caution, because they are concerned that unemployment's on the rise in Australia. They are concerned that energy prices continue to go through the roof, and they are concerned that the government continues to spend in a way that it's not controlling any levers in the economy at all right now. So I think the RBA has no option but to hold, and they will hold. All the economists agree that there's nowhere else for them to go. But the question has to be, what's Jim Chalmers doing? What's Albanese doing to support a potential interest rate cut down the track?
And government spending is at the worst levels since World War II. So it's just an absolute disaster. We've got to leave it there. David Elliott, Tanya Mihaly, good to see you both. Thank you so much for joining me on the show as always.